do want to turn our attention to the forecast, particularly this being a weather impact alert. We have meteorologist Craig Muller in with us. But Craig, this particular alert a little bit different than ones we've had in weeks past.
Yeah, over my shoulder, you can probably see the skies are clear as a bell. We don't have to worry about storms or anything crazy like that. What we are concerned with, and the reason we have this weather impact alert, we have dry conditions out there and gusty winds. And that combination elevates the fire danger. So let's take a look at what exactly we're talking about. From 11 o'clock this morning through 7 o'clock this evening, there will be this elevated threat of fires or wildfires, specifically gusty winds, again, combined with low humidity. It takes things like maybe somebody has some yard debris that they're burning. We haven't had a lot of fall, literally, leaf fall so far this fall. It's early in the season here in Hampton Roads, but other parts of the Commonwealth, some folks may be thinking, hey, today's the day I'm going to get out and start burning off some of the leaves that have already fallen, or maybe I'm going to do some outdoor burning. That can get away from you very quickly. So again, we're telling folks and asking folks to avoid outdoor burning if at all possible, and be very mindful. Again, cigarette butts, you never want to just casually throw those out the window, going down the road in a car or whatever, discarding stuff like that. That can, of course, cause brush fires, which can get away. And also operating machinery, things that a lot of times farm machinery, for instance, can produce sparks, and sometimes those sparks can ignite blazes. So we just need folks to be extra cautious today. Peak wind gusts so far, generally 20 to 25 miles per hour. Not too windy. A lot of sunshine across the area. You can see those winds are forecast to continue in that 20 to 25 mile per hour range through the afternoon. As we get into the evening, things will settle down. I wanted to show you the relative humidity. These are current relative humidities across the region. And as you can see at the coast at Oceana, it's still pretty high at 72%. In the morning, when the temperature drops to the dew point, that's when your humidity gets near 100%. That dew point may or may not fluctuate very much during the day, but as the daytime temperatures warm up, you get more of a separation. The humidity naturally drops. In today's case, we've got drier air coming in, and the humidity is going to drop significantly as we go through the afternoon, especially. That's why we've got that elevated risk from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. You look out to the west, we have some areas like Richmond, for example, 33% the relative humidity. Once you get down around 20% or so, that's where there's really that red flag warning situation where you really have to ban outdoor burning altogether. We're not quite there, but you can see out to the west, Charlottesville, 38% relative humidity. Richmond, I mentioned 33%. We're seeing 38 out around Danville. So we do have that very dry air out to the west, and that's what's going to build across our region. All right, want to talk to you about the drought monitor. Still very dry conditions out in West Virginia. We'll get an updated drought monitor for this week coming out tomorrow. So this information, this is the latest that's out there, but it is about a week old at this point. So these little areas with extreme drought or severe drought, moderate drought, they can shift around a little bit week to week. I wanted to show you the setup, though. Hampton Roads is actually doing okay as far as the ground moisture goes. Northeast North Carolina, that's been the issue with the drier conditions. Eugene, do you have any questions or anything before I jump into the next topic?
One of mine is just about tone. I mean, we've been talking about this. Obviously, this is something that people should be aware of. But, if somebody hears this, Craig, and they're like, man, how concerned should I be about my afternoon activities if I plan to maybe go out and, put something on the grill? What's my level of concern here?
I would have no reservations about cooking outdoors or anything like that. Sarah, you had asked earlier about like a fire pit. Honestly, that's kind of a borderline situation. If you are super attentive and, you've got I've got a solo stove we take camping. It limits where the smoke goes. It kind of keeps it confined. It's really cool. I would be okay with doing something like that. But if you're one that hey, having some of the, gang over, we're going to hang out, throw a few logs on and maybe kick back a little bit, throw down a few, drinks or whatever, and maybe you're not as attentive to where sparks are lifting or whatever, that could be a dangerous situation. So it's really up to everybody. We don't have specific burn restrictions right now around this setup, but it is something that we want folks to know. It is an elevated threat, and we just, you'd feel terrible if something got away from you, because you weren't paying close enough attention. So that's why we've done this, just to raise everybody's awareness of the potential.
I was more struck by the fact that Sarah mentioned that she was considering doing some kind of fire pit thing and didn't invite either one of us. Didn't say a thing.
Like
got
Sarah.
Her new house and everything.
She and her husband, moved in. It's all good.
I'm thinking we're getting invited to a housewarming, welcoming something, and no.
Soon. I haven't even. I have not even used it myself.
No pressure.
Yet, so I have to practice first, and then.
If you need me to come over and just, stand there with a garden hose in case any sparks, that'll be my excuse for getting over to Sarah's place. So anyway, so that talks about that. I did want to also mention the foliage. And this was so cool on the Weather Desk, which is a show we do every day right here on 13 News Now. Plus, at 9 a.m., we had Ellen Powell, a guest from the Virginia Department of Forestry. She was wonderful. So much great information. You're looking at some video from up in Buchanan and Madison County, Augusta, some of the different northern parts of Virginia and up into the Blue Ridge. The colors are starting to pop. Now, it was a little bit delayed, maybe just a little muted in some areas, but it's really coming in now. Sarah, if we take max to full, I'm going to give you a little explanation as to why the leaves change. And I'm doing this on a very small laptop, so it's probably easier for you to read than me. But what you're looking at, obviously, we get the cooler conditions in fall. And with the cooler weather, the tree's chlorophyll starts to break down, leaving other chemicals that cause color changes. So what are we talking about here? Well, you can see green. Again, we get the chlorophyll. That's what makes the leaves green. All right, you can see some of those other types of chemicals are more prevalent, like xanthophyll. I was going to let you guys try to, pronounce those. Do you guys want to try any of those? Xanthophyll?
I got you. Obviously,
Carotene.
chlorophyll, xanthophyll, carotene,
Very
and
good.
anthocyanine.
We're going to go with that. Very good. Anyway, you see some of the different colors. For example, the bright colors are more likely when the late summer is dry and autumn has sunny days and cool nights. Well, what did we have? Do you guys remember? In August, it got really cool, right? You remember that? We had a below average August, and September, most of the days have been cool. You would think we would get some really brilliant colors when they finally do come in here around Hampton Roads. We shall see. The jury still out, but the foliage is showing up out to the west. So again, up in the Blue Ridge, according to Ellen, she said, man, I asked her, I said, where would you take people this weekend if you wanted them to find the most brilliant color? She said, up and down the Blue Ridge, it is nice. And you don't even have to leave your cars to enjoy the colors. I mean, certainly if you're up for a hike and you want to get up and do some of the beautiful hikes in Western Virginia or Northern Virginia, go for it. But you can see some spectacular color just from the drive along the skyline. It is fantastic. So we'll zoom in a little closer here, show you some of the areas you get up towards Harrisonburg. Spent a weekend up there with my wife a couple weekends ago, and it was beautiful up there, and the colors weren't really even starting. They were just starting to see a little bit. Now that color's really in up there. Charlottesville, Stanton, those areas, absolutely stunning. Down to the south, you get into North Carolina, and some of the highest elevations are actually peaking or past peak in a few areas. So you get up to the very highest elevations, and their colors changed over earlier. We're starting to get moderate color across central Virginia, and that's something that you will notice. I did notice some of the color coming in across the Piedmont. But this is just a beautiful time of year. Really, really excited about all of that. All right, what I'm not excited about, we're still in the tropics. You guys ready to talk about Melissa?
I was having a good time listening about the fall foliage.
I know. It's so nice.
But I guess we do need to talk about old girl out there in the tropics.
Let's do that, okay? We're getting into the part of the tropical season, Eugene. We talk about this a lot on Daybreak. Once we get into late October, I become much more relaxed. During the peak of the hurricane season, you get into August and September, especially here in Hampton Roads. We always keep our heads on swivels when it comes to the tropics. But as far as personal concern, I live very close to the water here in Hampton Roads. For residents that have homes that are more vulnerable or property on the water, you might think, man, get us through that August, September time period. Now, by late October, we get into a time of the year where it's so frequent with our storm tracks coming through. We had a front come through early this morning. We've got another one coming through the middle of next week. These fronts make it less and less likely that hurricanes are going to directly impact us here in Hampton Roads. Now, we'll take a look at Melissa because there's question as to what this thing's going to do. Take a look. The 8 a.m. advisory showing the wind still 50 miles per hour, gusting up to 65. So, it's a tropical storm. Hasn't really changed this morning very much at all. The intensity is where it has been. The central pressure still at 1,001 millibars. But here's what has changed. It was moving to the west at 14 miles per hour this morning. It slowed down at 5 a.m. down to 7 miles per hour. And the most concerning thing, and not right now, this is kind of what it was forecast to do. It's slowed down to a crawl. Now, west-northwest, just 2 miles per hour. It is going to start to drift to the northwest, which again was anticipated. But when these tropical systems, even tropical storms, are slow movers, that's what really opens up the potential for extensive flooding. These are the things that sometimes are most dangerous. I think about some of the Central American countries, Honduras, Nicaragua, Belize, some of these areas, the Yucatan. Some of the most devastating tropical systems have been just slow movers. Watch what Melissa does here over the coming 5 to 7 days. You're going to see this thing drifting to the north. This weekend likely becomes a hurricane, and then it just basically starts to drift a little bit to the west. Think about what that does to Kingston and Montego Bay, some of those areas in Jamaica. If we've got a slow-moving hurricane where you're not talking about a system coming through over the span of 12 hours, you're talking about something that could drift for a couple of days with heavy tropical rains, lashing winds, pounding surf. If this forecast is correct, this could be really, really devastating to Jamaica, portions of western Haiti, maybe eventually up into Cuba. Now, I'm not trying to sound alarms. What I'm trying to do is say, hey, this is what the Hurricane Center is forecasting, and the effects of that could be significant. So if you know somebody that's vacationing down in Jamaica, I know they're all over it. They already have tropical storm watches up there. There are hurricane watches for western portions of Haiti. They need to think, okay, what's the plan? How long do we wait? Do we have to modify travel plans?
I actually just texted, that was me texting my sister, whose husband is born and raised Jamaica. Family's there. I got to meet a lot of them at their wedding recently. So I just texted like, hey, just making sure things are cool with the extended family. Make sure that they're good, because that could potentially be an issue for them. So
you may want to reach out.
I appreciate you telling me that, because I literally just sent that text.
You may want to reach out to him later this week and maybe even have him as a guest on here talking about, a little bit more to the areas that are most vulnerable. When you take a look at the topography of some of these Caribbean islands and countries, republics down into Central America, where you have high elevations, mountains, you get kind of enhanced rainfall from what we call orographic lifting. Some of this tropical moisture gets swept up the side of the mountain, really comes down in buckets. It can be an even greater focus for more intense rainfall. That, there are some areas that could really see a lot. So just want to give everybody a heads up on that. Generally, 2 schools of thought on where this thing goes over time. Take a look, and this is why, again, we're not panicking anybody. We want to raise awareness. If you're down in Jamaica, if you're in Hispaniola, if you are picking us up in Cuba, any of these areas, you need to know what's going on with Melissa. Take a look at the model comparison, the Euro and the GFS. The GFS is going to run this thing off to the northeast. The Euro slows it down and keeps it south. So you take a look at those two. The Euro's in red. The GFS is in yellow. GFS moves it over western Haiti, takes it up towards the western tip of Haiti and up towards the southern Bahamas, the Turks and Caicos, while the Euro says, it's not going to get directly over Jamaica, at least maybe not initially. It's going to kind of stall it and then eventually bring it back up. Look at that, back over towards Jamaica. that area as we get into the middle of next week. So we could have a week's worth of concern with this thing, and look at how little it moves over that time period if the European model is correct. If the GFS is correct, it's a bad hit for Haiti and Hispaniola, but it keeps moving out of here. Beyond that, just so you know, the Euro actually drifts it across Cuba, brings it up across the Bahamas, and we've got another system coming through Hampton Roads. It's going to kick it to the east after that. As I mentioned, Tropical Storm Watch is up for Jamaica, so those folks down there are already planning and saying, hey, folks, get a plan, know what you're going to do, and I'm sure emergency managers down in Jamaica are all over this. For Western Haiti, it's a hurricane watch, and I would suspect, based on the Hurricane Center forecast, with the 11 o'clock update, I know Hunter Force may jump back in with you guys in a little bit, we may see a hurricane watch going up even at 11 or later today at some point for Jamaica. So we'll just have to see how that plays.
Okay, yeah, we're going to have to keep tabs on that with Hunter, too, if you say so. So when you see him out there,
yeah,
just tell him, hey, okay, if
I
he
said,
comes
hey,
through,
you may
we'll be in
jump
here.
back in. So
but that will be really good for us to be able to know if that comes through, Craig. So
yeah,
we
for
appreciate
sure.
you. Anything else you want the people to know about the particular forecast that we can see in the next few days before we kind of transition out?
Yeah, let's just go ahead and take a quick look at the 7-day forecast for Hampton Roads, right? We're here. Let's talk about it. So, again, we have our weather impact alert for today just because it's breezy and dry. There's nothing that is concerning as far as anything other than a cool and breezy day for some folks. But low 70s, this is the warmest day of the coming week. So think about that. If you are a warm weather lover, get ready. It's going to get cool. Break out the hoodies and, maybe the boots if you like to wear that, the longer, heavier layers. For some folks, it's going to be cool. We're talking upper 60s tomorrow, mid 60s Friday. Plenty of sunshine through the weekend. Highs Saturday, low 60s. Love that. Winds calming down. Sarah, there's your fire pit weather. Eugene and I will wait for the invite.
We will wait for that invite.
Into
in
next
person,
week.
via text, snail mail, whatever you need
Whatever
to
it
do,
takes.
Sarah.
She's giving us that. All right,
Yes.
low to mid 60s through the middle of next week. Our weather's going to be really nice. Rain chances go up Wednesday and Thursday. And just because we're here right now and you're here right now with us, I will give you the earliest discussion of Halloween that I've done so far in the area.
Okay,
you
come
ready?
on.
Halloween forecast. We're going to see rain Wednesday, it looks like, into Thursday. I think Halloween should be partly cloudy. Temperatures lower 60s. Right now, that's a Friday. So not only are the little kids trick-or-treating, I think the big kids are going to be having some Halloween parties on a Friday night. It looks like the weather's going to be good. If that system were to slow down, that could have some impacts. But right now, Halloween looks good. We'll keep you updated over the coming week.
Cool. Well, Halloween is my birthday, and so it kind of fits if it could get a little. You want it to be a little dreary, a little bit on Halloween when you're putting on your costumes. You want it to all fit within the.
But you don't want to have to put the bags on or cover up.
No, you don't want to cover up your
outfit.
costume.
Come
But
on.
if it's a little bit of a drizzle, a little gray outside, make the wolves go howl.
Ah.
That's what it's all about.
I hope your Halloween is spectacular.
All right, Craig, we appreciate you. And like I said, if that does happen at 11 o'clock, we get any kind of update, I'll make sure we hear from Hunter about that too. So thank you so much, meteorologist Craig Moeller, with the latest on that.